Here we are on the next phase of the southern extension. We have a small but not insignificant hurdle to overcome in the form of the Nant Goedwig. The Corris Railway is fortunate to have some highly skilled volunteers who are prepared to give their time to help the railway. And two such examples with me today are Geoff and Alex, who are going to talk to us about overcoming this next hurdle as we progress southwards towards Mahuntleth. So Alex, perhaps you could talk us through some of the issues we've got in crossing a small watercourse in order to enable us to run trains further south.
Yeah, sure. From the end of the existing embankment that's been formed over the last 5 years, we now have to cross the Nant Goedwig, which is this stream in just behind us here. It runs under the trunk road there with a culvert that was constructed in the 1980s. Right. It's part of a road realignment at the time. There was a bridge across there previously, but they took out the road arrangement and built this culvert in its place. So we need to cross over it, and the stake in the background, the higher level of red mark up there, is the formation for the track bed. So we're quite high, and the alignment of the railway would be going across the top of this culvert, originally planned to be on a retaining wall above there. For various reasons, highways aren't particularly happy with this. It's a highway structure, and we'll be putting some extra load on it quite close to the edge, and the options to us have been to extend the culvert, which the highways would be happy with following submission and agreement of a reinforced concrete design, but has had problems with flood risks and flood consequences due to the impact on the main River Dilys floodplain. So we've had to go a little bit back to the drawing board there, and what we're now looking at is to put a bridge across. So we'll put an abutment on the north side, another abutment on the south side, and bridge across so that we don't add any load onto the top of that culvert. So that should deal with the highways concerns. It will be high enough to be out of the flood level and not have any flood issues, but clearly has other implications in design and construction compared to the extension of the culvert option.
Geoff, could you talk to us about some of the other potential issues that we might face?
Yeah, of course. So we're standing in a flood valley with a flood plain at the bottom of it. So any construction work, any alterations to the status quo, we're going to have to undertake a flood consequences assessment. So that's a case of modelling what the river flows are at the moment. It's quite shallow at the moment, but in winter with sudden and heavy downpours, the water will rise. So we have to model that and the River Dilys before and after the construction, and then we have to work out with the authorities what any mitigation might be if the effects are negative. That's quite a complex piece of work to do. We need a specialist organisation to do that. So we're just beginning to scope that now, and that'll be a number of months before we have that complete. But that's an integral part of any planning application that we will need to make for this.
Right. Okay. Aside from the environmental impact or potential environmental impact, what other hurdles have we got to overcome?
There's a couple of obvious ones. You can hear perhaps the road behind us, and you can see from the profile how high the new track bed will be. So we're quite close to the railway. The railway and the road are quite close to each other, both vertically and horizontally. So we have to make sure that we protect the operators and the maintainers and the constructors and the passengers on the railway from the impact of a vehicle that might leave the road in an accident and crash through across the railway. So we've got to work out what vehicle protection is necessary to be able to protect the railway from that. That's logistically quite difficult because the amount of space between the railway and the road is quite narrow. It's already quite narrow between the barriers that are there further down the road and some of the telegraph poles there, for the wooden poles. So that's hurdle we'll have to overcome with the Highways Authority. And the other one is then looking further south. There are actually some wooden poles that have the telephone and broadband supply to the valley. There's one or two of those that are in the track bed, so we're going to have to negotiate to get those moved.
Right.
not a straightforward thing to do, but they're in the way. So we'll have to address that during the planning application as well.
Okay. In terms of constructing a bridge, Alex, what sort of problems could you envisage we might encounter?
I think in this particular scenario we've got a number of issues to get round. One of them is access. We don't have a huge amount of access to create piling mats and the like. So we're looking to access down the new track bed and along the new embankment to get the north side, and then up from the south on this embankment behind us to get from the south side. So it's quite constrained there. So that's to get the piling in, and then there's some reinforced concrete work to do, which again, access isn't easy. We'll have to come in from one end or the other because we can't very easily close the trunk road to have a concrete wagon sat there while we pump concrete in.
No.
So that's going to have to come down the formation.
Right.
Getting the bridge in itself, the bridge we're looking at, so the outline design is a girder bridge. So it'll be two I-beams going across the gap there between the two abutments. And to crane that in, we probably will need to have a road closure to get the clearance. The overhead BT cables come into play there as well, and certainly for the duration of any craneage activity, at a minimum we'll need to lower them so that we don't end up making a mess of those whilst we're trying to bring a bridge across. And no, it won't be very popular if we take the broadband down in the village whilst we're putting a nice new bridge in.
No.
So yeah, it's primarily access that are the constraints on this site. Before we get to final design, we'll need to do some boreholes to confirm exactly what the ground is beneath us. This area was realigned and reformed during the 80s when the bridge was changed to a culvert. So the track bed itself used to be another 20 yards across that side on the other side of the road.
Right.
So a lot of this side is already filled up, made ground. So we need to understand exactly what the profile is here to get the piling design right. So there's quite a bit of design work and investigation work still to be completed before we can even think of getting piling rigs on the ground.
In terms of supporting the girder structure, would the abutments and wing walls be precast, or would you make them in place? What sort of thing are you thinking of doing?
We're currently looking at in situ,
Right.
so in situ reinforced concrete for the bank seats. So there would be a pair of piles on each side.
Right.
With then a reinforced concrete structure joining those and going up to a bearing shelf for the girders to sit on.
Right. Okay.
One of the things that we'll have to work on with the contractor is the implications of the construction. So we've got to be careful that we don't kind of pollute the watercourse or damage the environment or cause damage to trees and flora and fauna. So that all has to be worked out once we got the contractor in place. And construction traffic and managing that with a busy highway behind it's really important that that's got to be well planned and well thought through, and that'll be an integral part of getting planning consent for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.